Law of cosines. We've studied the law of sines, which has been used for the cases of angle, angle, side, angle, side, angle, and angle, side, side, also known as the ambiguous case. Today we're going to look at the law of cosines, which is used for the cases of side, 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 and side, angle, side. We'll start with side, angle, side because that is usually the easiest of the two choices. So let's say we have a triangle that they give us and it's labeled A, B, C. And they give us that this side is 10, this side is 11, and this angle is 40 degrees. We want to solve the triangle, which again means finding the length of all three sides and the measure of each of the three angles. So when you do one of these problems, you want to start out by putting in what you know. Remember that in a triangle, the side opposite an angle is the lowercase letter of what the angle is. So this is side A, this is B, and this is C. So I know that B is 11, C is 10, and angle A is 40 degrees. Now what the law of cosines, there are actually three forms of it. And I'm going to put them right up here. They're all three the same, and the letters don't really matter. It's a matter of understanding how it works. Now we all remember the Pythagorean theorem, which says that c squared is a squared plus b squared. But that only works in a right triangle. So what the law of cosines does for any triangle is we know two of these three things. And so what I'm going to do then is subtract 2ab times the cosine of angle C. Now notice that this lowercase letter and this angle are the same. And then these two sides are the same as these two are. The other versions of it are the same thing. I can say that a squared is the squares of the other two sides minus 2 times those two sides times the cosine of the angle opposite side A. And then b squared is a squared plus c squared, the other two sides, minus 2 times those multiplied together times the cosine of angle B. You can see that these are all the same form. So now we just need to apply that to this. We know that this side, this angle, and this side, so we can solve for this side over here. And so I'm just going to use this version of it right here. But again, it doesn't really matter. I can just say that a squared is the square of the other two sides added together minus 2 times those two sides times the cosine of the angle in between them. What we can do now is solve this for side A. And to do that, you just take your calculator and we'll go ahead and we'll put that in there. So I'm going to just go ahead and put this in exactly like it is, and that's what a squared is going to be equal. So if I did 10 squared plus 11 squared minus 2 times 10 times 11 times the cosine of 40 degrees. Now, one thing you want to make sure you do is you check that what mode you're in. And so I'm in the degree mode, so I can quit that, and I can go ahead and now I can calculate that. And that's what a squared equals. So a squared equals 52.47, 52.5 if we do nearest tenth for a side. That means a then, to find a, you take the square root of that. So a equals the square root of my answer. And I could type that whole thing in again, but I'm just going to use on the calculator, I'm just going to use the answer right here above the negative sign. And so I just press second answer and then hit enter. And the answer then is 7.2. So now I found the third side. Now I have to find the other two angles. You have two choices you can do on this. You could use the law of cosines again, but that's really long to have to solve, and it's more difficult than using the law of sines. Now I know an angle in the side opposite it, so I want to solve for one of these two angles. At that point, using the law of sines, it will not give you an obtuse angle. So if there is an obtuse angle, the law of sines won't give it to you. So what you want to do is try and solve for your choice of B or C. You want to solve for whichever one of those angles is the smallest. Now remember that the larger a side is, the larger the angle is. So that means that angle C is the smaller of angles B and C. So that's the one I want to solve for. So I'm just going to go the law of sines now. I'm going to solve it using that. I'm going to say the sine of 40 over 7.2 is equal to the sine of C over 10. And now we want to solve that proportion. This is just like we did when we did the law of sines. I'm going to multiply these two together, 10 times the sine of 40, and divide it by this, 7.2, and that's what has to equal the sine of angle C. Now to get rid of this sine, what we do is we take the inverse sine of that. And that gets rid of this, and it just becomes angle C. Put that in your calculator. So now I'm going to enter that in my calculator. The inverse sine of 10 sine of 40 divided by 7.2 parenthesis enter. So I know that angle C is about 63 degrees. So angle C equals 63 degrees. I can put that up here. And now that the fact that the angles of a triangle add up to 180, I can add 63 plus 40 and get 103. 63 plus 40. Take 180 minus 103, and we get 77 degrees, which is what angle B is. And that's how you solve a triangle using side angle side.